I never thought I'd end up married to a woman I met in a coffee shop. But life has a funny way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. It was a Tuesday morning, unseasonably cold for September in San Francisco. I was sitting in my usual corner at Grounds & Co., nursing an espresso and staring at the stack of past due notices spread across the table like a particularly depressing game of solitaire. The restaurant, my family's restaurant, the one my abuela had poured her heart and soul into for 30 years, was drowning in debt. The equipment was ancient, the lease was up for renewal at triple the cost, and I'd already maxed out every credit card and called in every favor I had. I was contemplating whether selling a kidney was actually a viable option when she walked in. Mia. Chen wasn't the type of woman you could ignore. She had this presence, all sharp angles and sharper business suits, her black hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail that probably cost more to maintain than my monthly grocery budget. She ordered some complicated drink that sounded more like a chemistry experiment than coffee. Then her eyes swept the crowded cafe before landing on the empty chair at my table. "Mind if I sit?" she asked, already pulling out the chair. "Knock yourself out," I said, gathering my bills into a messy pile. She sat down with the kind of grace that spoke of etiquette classes and cotillions, then pulled out a laptop that was definitely this year's model. We sat in silence for maybe 10 minutes, her typing away while I tried to figure out which bill to pay first, gas or electric, when suddenly she slammed her laptop shut. "I need a husband," she announced. I choked on my espresso. "Excuse me?" "Not a real husband." "Well, real in the legal sense, but not real in the..." She waved her hand vaguely. "You know, the actual sense." "Lady, I don't know what kind of coffee you ordered, but I'm serious." She leaned forward, and I noticed her eyes were this really intense shade of brown, like expensive whiskey. "My grandmother is old-fashioned, traditional. She's going to pass the company to me, but only if I'm married and settled down by my 30th birthday, which is in 3 months. So get married," I said, starting to pack up my stuff. I didn't need whatever this was. It's not that simple. I don't have time for dating, and everyone in my social circle either wants to marry me for my money or has an agenda. I need someone... She paused, studying me with the kind of intensity that made me feel like a specimen under a microscope. Someone outside my world. Someone who won't try to control my company or my life. Someone who needs something I can provide. Despite myself, I was intrigued. "And what makes you think I need anything?" She glanced pointedly at the stack of bills I was trying to hide. "Those, for starters. Plus, you've been coming here every morning for 2 weeks, ordering 1 espresso and making it last for 3 hours. You're wearing a chef's coat with Rivera's embroidered on it. But I looked it up. Your restaurant has a C rating from the health department, not because of cleanliness issues, but because your equipment is so old it's a liability. You need money, and you need it fast." I should have been offended. Instead, I found myself asking, "How much?" $200,000. 100 up front. 100 when the marriage is legally dissolved after my grandmother transfers the company to me. Shouldn't take more than a year. $200,000. That would save the restaurant, upgrade the equipment, and still leave enough for a cushion. I could pay off Abuela's medical bills from last year. I could actually breathe. What's the catch? We have to make it convincing. My grandmother is sharp and she'll be watching. We'll need to live together, at least part-time. Attend family dinners. Act like a couple in public. She paused. "And there's one more thing. My ex-boyfriend Derek might be a problem." "How so?" "He left me 6 months ago. Said he needed to find himself or some nonsense. But I heard through mutual friends he's back in the city and he's been asking about me. If he finds out about this arrangement, he could blow the whole thing," I finished. Exactly. I should have walked away. Any sane person would have. But sanity doesn't keep the lights on, and desperation makes you do funny things. "Okay," I heard myself say. "I'm in." That's how I, Lucas Rivera, street-smart chef from the Mission District, became the fake husband of Mia Chen, CEO of Chen Technologies and heiress to a fortune I couldn't even comprehend. The wedding was small, clinical even, just us, a judge, and 2 witnesses Mia had hired for the occasion. I wore the one decent suit I owned, and she wore a simple white dress that probably cost more than my car. There was no kiss at the end, just a handshake and the signing of papers. "Congratulations, Mrs. Rivera," I said as we walked out of City Hall. She wrinkled her nose. I'm keeping my own name, thank you. Right, of course. Congratulations, Ms. Chen, who is legally married to me but doesn't want anyone to know it. That's not... She stopped, then laughed. It was the first time I'd heard her laugh, and it transformed her entire face. Okay, that's fair. This is weird. Monumentally weird, I agreed. Well, husband, let's go see your new home. Her apartment was in Pacific Heights, naturally. 23rd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the Golden Gate Bridge, furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. I stood in the doorway with my 2 duffel bags of belongings feeling wildly out of place. Your room is down the hall, Mia said, leading me through what felt like a mile of hardwood floors. Private bathroom, walk-in closet. I took the liberty of having some clothes delivered. Suits, casual wear, whatever you might need for family events. You didn't have to? Yes, I did. No offense, but if you show up to my grandmother's house in anything from your current wardrobe, she'll know something's up immediately. She opened the door to reveal a bedroom bigger than my entire previous apartment. Make yourself comfortable. Dinner with grandmother is on Friday. That gives us 3 days to get our story straight. Those 3 days were a crash course in living with Mia Chen. I learned that she woke up at 5:30 every morning, ran 6 miles, drank a green smoothie that looked like swamp water, and was on her first conference call by 7. She worked until midnight most nights, survived on takeout and black coffee, and had the kind of drive that was honestly a little terrifying. I also learned that she was lonely. It was the little things that gave it away. The way she'd linger in the kitchen when I was cooking dinner, pretending to check emails but actually watching me work. The way she'd ask questions about my family, about growing up in the mission, about the restaurant. The way her face would soften when I talked about Abuela's recipes, about the regulars who'd been coming to Rivera's since before I was born. You really love it, she said one night, watching me dice onions with the kind of precision that only comes from 15 years of practice. The restaurant, I mean. It's my family's legacy, I said. My abuelo came here from Mexico with nothing but a dream and a recipe for mole that could make grown men cry. He worked 3 jobs to save up enough to open Rivera's. When he died, Abuela kept it going. Now it's my turn. That must be nice, she said softly, having something that means that much. You have Chen Technologies. I have a company my father built, and my grandmother is forcing me to take over. It's not the same thing. She picked at the salad I'd made her. I never asked for any of this. I wanted to be an architect, actually. Design buildings, create spaces where people could live and work and be happy. But my father died, and suddenly I was the heir, and architecture became just another hobby I didn't have time for. I stopped chopping and looked at her. Really looked at her. Under the CEO armor and the designer clothes, she was just someone who'd had their dreams derailed by obligation. I knew something about that. So why not walk away? I asked. Let someone else run the company. Because 5,000 people work for Chen Technologies. They have families, mortgages, kids in college. If the company fails, they all suffer. And my grandmother, she's difficult, but she's alone. My father was her only child. Losing him nearly killed her. I can't... She trailed off, then shook her head. Anyway, that's not your problem. You're just here to play a part. But it was becoming my problem, because the more time I spent with Mia, the harder it was to remember that this was just a business arrangement. Friday arrived too quickly. I put on one of the new suits Mia had bought me, charcoal gray, Italian wool, fit like it was made for me because it probably was, and tried not to think about how much it cost. You look good, Mia said, appearing in the living room in a navy dress that was somehow both conservative and stunning. You too, I said, then cleared my throat. I mean, you look nice, professional, appropriate for meeting your grandmother. She smiled, but there was nervousness in it. Ready to meet the dragon lady? Grandmother Chen lived in a mansion in Seacliff that made Mia's apartment look modest. A butler, an actual butler, opened the door and led us through a maze of rooms filled with antiques and art that probably cost more than most people made in a lifetime. Grandmother Chen herself was tiny, barely 5 feet tall, but she had the presence of someone 3 times her size. She looked me up and down with eyes that missed nothing. So you're the boy my granddaughter married, she said in Mandarin. I responded in kind. Thank God for high school language classes and a good memory. Yes, ma'am. It's an honor to meet you. Her eyebrows rose. You speak Mandarin. Not as well as I'd like, but I try. She turned to Mia. At least he's not completely useless. Come, dinner is ready. Dinner was a test, I realized about halfway through the first course. Every question Grandmother Chen asked was designed to trip us up, to find the cracks in our story. How did we meet? Coffee shop, true enough. How long had we been dating? 6 months, which was a lie. Who proposed? I did, I said, because I'd fallen head over heels and couldn't imagine my life without her. That earned me a look from Mia that I couldn't quite decipher. And what do you do, Lucas? Grandmother Chen asked, watching me like a hawk. I run a restaurant. Rivera's in the Mission District. Mexican cuisine. Family recipes passed down from my grandfather. A cook. Her tone suggested I'd said serial killer. A chef, I corrected gently. There's a difference. And you expect to support my granddaughter on a chef's salary? Grandmother, Mia interjected, but I held up a hand. No, it's a fair question. I looked directly at Grandmother Chen. I don't expect to support Mia. She's more than capable of supporting herself. What I offer is partnership, respect, and love. Those don't come with a price tag. The table went silent. I was sure I'd blown it. Said too much. Revealed the cracks in our facade. But then Grandmother Chen smiled. A real smile, not the polite mask she'd been wearing. Good answer, she said. Perhaps you're not useless after all. The rest of the dinner went smoothly, and by the time we left, I was pretty sure we'd passed the first test. Mia was quiet in the car on the way home, staring out the window at the city lights. Thank you, she said finally, for what you said, about partnership and respect. I meant it, I said, and realized with a start that I did. You deserve that, contract or no contract. She turned to look at me, and something shifted in the air between us. Something dangerous and real. Lucas. Her phone rang, shattering the moment. She glanced at the screen and frowned. I don't recognize this number. She answered it, and I watched her face go pale. Derek, she said, and my stomach dropped. No, I don't think that's a good idea. I'm married now. No, it's not a joke. Yes, really married. She hung up, but I could see her hands shaking. He wants to meet, she said. He says he made a mistake. He wants me back. And just like that, our perfect little fiction got a whole lot more complicated. Derek Montgomery was exactly the kind of guy I expected. Tall, handsome in that preppy way, wearing a watch that cost more than my restaurant. He suggested meeting at some exclusive club I'd never heard of, but Mia insisted on neutral ground. We ended up at a wine bar in Nob Hill, the three of us sitting at a table that felt far too small. So you're the new husband, Derek said, looking me over with barely concealed disdain. Mia certainly has eclectic taste. Derek, Mia said warningly. What? I'm just trying to understand. 6 months ago, you were devastated when I left. Now you're married to... What did you say he does? He owns a restaurant? Rivera's, I said evenly. Mexican cuisine. You should stop by sometime. I don't really do ethnic food, he said dismissively, and I had to grip my wine glass to keep from saying something I'd regret. Mia stood up abruptly. This was a mistake. Derek, I agreed to meet you because we were together for 2 years, and I thought I owed you that courtesy, but I'm happy now. I'm married. Whatever you thought would happen here, I made a mistake, Mia. Derek stood too, reaching for her hand. Leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life. I was scared, stupid, but I've grown. I've changed. Give me another chance, please. I watched Mia's face, saw the war happening behind her eyes. Part of her, maybe a bigger part than I wanted to admit, was tempted. Derek was familiar, safe. He was from her world, spoke her language. What was I compared to that? Just a chef from the Mission with a failing restaurant and a contract. I'm married, Derek, she said finally, pulling her hand away, to Lucas. And I'm not going to throw that away because you suddenly decided you want me back. We left him sitting there, but I could feel his eyes on us as we walked out. Could feel the promise of trouble brewing, I'm sorry, Mia said once we were outside. I shouldn't have agreed to meet him. Hey, you're allowed to have a past. It's fine, is it? She stopped walking, turned to face me. Because you seem upset. Was I upset? Yeah, I was, but not for the reasons she thought. I was upset because seeing her with Derek made me realize how much I wanted this to be real, how much I wanted to actually be her husband, not just the guy playing the part. I'm fine, I lied. Come on, let's go home. Home. When had I started thinking of her apartment as home? Derek didn't give up easily. Over the next few weeks, he was everywhere, showing up at Chen Technologies for business meetings, arranging coincidental run-ins at restaurants and events. And worst of all, he started coming to Rivera's. The first time he walked in, I was in the kitchen, working the line during the dinner rush. Maria, my head server and Abuela's goddaughter, came back with a tight expression. That pendejo from the wine bar is here, she said. The one who looks like he irons his jeans. Derek? I wiped my hands on my apron. What does he want? Says he wants to try the food. But Lucas, he's not here to eat. He's taking pictures of everything. The equipment, the dining room, the health certificates on the wall. My blood ran cold. Is he with anyone? No, alone. Should I kick him out? No, let him stay. Give him the best service we've got. I want him to have no complaints, understand? Maria nodded, but I could see the worry in her eyes. She'd been at Rivera's since before I was born. She knew what we had to lose. I made Derek's meal myself. Chile rellenos, rice and beans, fresh tortillas. It was some of my best work, and I knew it. When Maria brought back his empty plate, she was smiling. He said it was delicious, she reported. Then he asked how we managed to serve such good food with such outdated equipment. Of course he did. Derek left a generous tip, but I wasn't fooled. He was gathering ammunition, looking for vulnerabilities. The question was why. I found out the answer when the health inspector showed up unannounced 2 days later. We passed, barely, but he flagged several pieces of equipment as nearing end of life and said we'd need to upgrade within 6 months or face closure. Someone filed a complaint, he said, not meeting my eyes. Said they got sick after eating here. We had to follow up. Did they provide medical records? A doctor's note? No, but then it's a false complaint. I kept my voice level, and we both know it. He had the decency to look ashamed. I'm sorry, Lucas, I'm just doing my job. I called Mia that night, pacing the tiny office in the back of the restaurant. Derek's coming after me, I told her. He filed a false health complaint, and I'm pretty sure he's not done. There was silence on the other end of the line, then a string of curses that would have made my abuela clutch her pearls. I'm so sorry, Mia said. I'll talk to him. I'll make him stop. Don't. I ran a hand through my hair. That's what he wants, to drive a wedge between us, to make you choose. If you go to him, you're giving him power. So what do? We stick to the plan. We keep playing the happy couple, and we don't let him see that he's getting to us. But Derek was getting to us, and we both knew it. The stress was showing. Mia was working even longer hours, and I caught her staring at her phone sometimes, like she was waiting for Derek to call or text. I was spending more time at the restaurant, trying to figure out how to afford the upgrades we needed. The contract money Mia had given me was supposed to be for emergencies, but equipment replacement wasn't an emergency. It was survival. I couldn't bring myself to use it, not when it felt like accepting charity. Things came to a head 3 weeks after Derek's first visit to Rivera's. I came home. I was thinking of it as home now. Couldn't help it. To find Mia sitting in the dark living room, staring out at the city lights. Hey, I said softly. You okay? Derek offered to invest in Chen Technologies today, she said without turning around. $2 million. He said he wants to be part of my success. That's a lot of money. It is, and I turned him down. She finally looked at me, and even in the dim light, I could see the exhaustion on her face. He didn't take it well. He said some things, about you, about us. What kind of things? That our marriage is fake. That you're using me for money. That he can prove it. She stood up, wrapping her arms around herself. Lucas, what if he's right? Not about you using me, but about the marriage being fake. What if grandmother finds out? What if I lose everything because I was too proud to marry someone suitable? I crossed the room before I could think better of it, turning her to face me. "Listen to me," I said. "I don't know what Derek said, but he's wrong. About all of it. Yeah, this started as a contract, but you're not fake to me, Mia. This," I gestured between us, "isn't fake. I don't know when it happened, but somewhere between the coffee shop and tonight, it became real. Lucas." "I'm in love with you," I said, and it felt like jumping off a cliff. "I know that's not part of the contract. I know that's probably the last thing you want to hear. But it's true. And if Derek wants to prove our marriage is fake, he's going to have a hard time because my feelings sure as hell aren't." For a moment, she just stared at me. Then she kissed me. It wasn't like the movies. It was messy and desperate and tasted like the coffee she'd been drinking all day. But it was real. More real than anything I'd felt in years. "I love you too," she whispered against my lips. "God help me. I love you too." We stood there in the dark, holding each other like we could keep the world at bay through sheer force of will. But the world doesn't work that way, and Derek wasn't done with us yet. The next morning, I woke up to find Mia already gone. There was a note on the kitchen counter. "Emergency at work. Love you. M. Love you." 2 words that changed everything. I was grinning like an idiot when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Lucas Rivera?" The voice was male, professional. "My name is James Chen. I'm Mia's cousin. I think we need to talk." We met at a diner in Chinatown. James was tall, lean, looked nothing like Mia, except for the eyes. Same whiskey brown, same intensity. "I'll get right to the point," he said once we'd ordered coffee. "Derek Montgomery didn't leave Mia because he needed to find himself. He left because someone paid him to." I set down my cup carefully. "What?" "Victor Tang. He's a business rival of my family's. He's been trying to acquire Chen Technologies for years, but grandmother won't sell. When Mia's father died and she was set to inherit, Victor saw an opportunity. He couldn't get to Mia directly, so he went after the people around her. Derek," I said. "Derek. Victor paid him $500,000 to break Mia's heart, to make her vulnerable. The plan was that Victor would swoop in, offer comfort and business advice, and slowly manipulate her into selling. But you came along and screwed up his timeline. So now he's using Derek to break us up." "Exactly, and he's not playing around. Derek's been investigating your marriage, looking for proof it's fake. If he finds it, if he can convince grandmother that Mia lied about the marriage, she'll disinherit Mia completely. Victor will buy the company from grandmother, and 5,000 people will lose their jobs when he guts it for parts." I felt sick. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I think you actually care about my cousin, and because I need your help to prove what Victor and Derek did." He slid a folder across the table. "This is everything I've been able to dig up. Bank transfers, emails, phone records. But it's not enough to be admissible in court. I need something concrete. A confession, maybe." "And you want me to get it?" "I want you to help me get it. Together." He leaned forward. "Look, I know you and Mia started this as a business arrangement, but you're in deep now. Derek's targeting your restaurant because he knows it's your weakness. If you don't act, you're going to lose everything. The restaurant, Mia, all of it." He was right, and we both knew it. "What's your plan?" I asked. The plan was risky, borderline insane, and required perfect timing. But it was also our only shot. Step 1 was easy. I called Derek and asked to meet. Man to man, I said, to discuss Mia's future. He agreed immediately, probably thinking he'd won. We met at his club, the kind of place with leather chairs and oil paintings of dead guys in the hunting gear. "Lucas," he said, gesturing to a chair. "I have to say, I'm surprised you called." "Yeah, well, I've been thinking about what you said, about Mia deserving better." His eyes lit up. "Go on." The truth is, I can't give her what she needs. Not really. I'm a chef, Derek. I live in a one-bedroom apartment above a restaurant that's barely staying afloat. What kind of life is that for? Someone like Mia? Exactly what I've been trying to tell her, Derek said, leaning forward. She needs someone who can match her, professionally and socially. Someone who understands her world. Someone like you. Well, I wouldn't say... Yes, you would. I pulled out my phone, where I'd been recording the whole conversation. Because you've been saying it to anyone who'll listen. Just like you've been saying our marriage is fake. His face went pale, then red with anger. You're recording this? Oh, this? No, this is just for my records. James, on the other hand. I gestured to the window, where James was standing with a video camera, recording everything through the glass. He's been recording since you sat down. Derek lunged for me, but I was faster. Years of working in a hot kitchen teaches you to move quick. I sidestepped, and he crashed into the chair instead. Here's what's going to happen, I said, standing over him. You're going to tell me everything. About Victor Tang, about the money, about why you really left Mia. And you're going to do it on camera, or I'm going to the press with what we already have, and you can kiss your reputation goodbye. He didn't want to talk. But when James came in with the folder of evidence, showing Derek exactly how much we knew, he crumbled like a stale tortilla. Victor approached me a year ago, he said, staring at the floor. Said he'd pay me to get close to Mia, to make her fall in love with me, then break her heart. He wanted her vulnerable, distracted from the business. The plan was that he'd step in as a mentor figure, convince her to sell Chen Technologies to him. But she didn't fall apart like you thought she would, I said. No. She threw herself into work, and then she met you, and suddenly she was happy again. Victor was furious. He told me to fix it, to get rid of you. So I started investigating the marriage, looking for proof it was fake. Why the restaurant? I asked. Why come after Rivera's? Victor's idea. He said everyone has a weakness, and yours was the restaurant. If I could force you to close, you'd have to use the contract money Mia gave you, and that would prove the marriage was transactional. One problem with that theory, I said. The marriage isn't fake anymore. James got it all on video. Every confession, every detail. It was more than enough to bury Victor Tang and Derek Montgomery both. We told Mia that night. She listened in silence, her face unreadable, as we laid out everything Derek had confessed. He never loved me, she said when we finished. It was all a lie, from the very beginning. I'm sorry, I said, reaching for her hand. She pulled away, standing up and walking to the window. Don't be. You saved me. If it weren't for you, for this marriage, I'd have fallen right into Victor's trap. Mia, I need some time, she said, to process this, to figure out what it means. I wanted to argue, to tell her that what it meant was we'd won. We had the evidence to expose Victor and Derek, to protect the company, to secure her inheritance. But looking at her standing there, silhouetted against the city lights, I realized she wasn't thinking about any of that. She was thinking about how everything she'd believed about her relationship with Derek had been a lie. I left her alone that night, even though it killed me. Some things you have to work through on your own. The next day, Mia called a meeting with Grandmother Chen, Victor Tang, and Derek Montgomery. James and I were there too, along with Grandmother's lawyers. I'm curious, Victor, Mia said once everyone was seated in Grandmother's formal dining room. When were you planning to tell me about your arrangement with Derek? Victor's face went carefully blank. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Because I have a video that says otherwise. She nodded to James, who pulled up the recording on a large screen. Derek was very forthcoming once he realized how much trouble he was in. We all watched as Derek's confession played out. The room was silent except for his recorded voice, detailing Victor's plan to manipulate Mia into selling the company. When it finished, Grandmother Chen stood up. She was shaking with rage. "Get out," she said to Victor. "Get out of my house before I have you arrested." "Now, Mrs. Chen. Out!" Victor left, practically running. Derek tried to follow, but grandmother's security stopped him. "You," she said, turning to Derek. "You will sign a statement confirming everything you said on that video. You will testify if we need you to. And then you will leave San Francisco and never contact my granddaughter again. Do you understand?" Derek nodded, looking like he might cry. After he left, grandmother turned to Mia and me. Her expression softened. "I owe you an apology," she said to me. "I judged you unfairly. I thought you were after Mia's money, but you protected her when she needed it most. That makes you worthy of the Chen name." "With respect, ma'am, I'm keeping Rivera as my name, but I appreciate the sentiment." She smiled. "Good. A man should have pride in his heritage." She turned to Mia. "You chose well, granddaughter. Better than I gave you credit for. Actually, grandmother, there's something you should know." Mia took a deep breath. "Lucas and I, our marriage started as a contract. A business arrangement so I could meet your requirements for inheriting the company." I stared at her. "Mia, what are you doing?" "I'm telling the truth. You taught me that lies have consequences, grandmother. I'm not going to build my inheritance on a lie." Grandmother Chen sat down slowly, studying both of us. "I see. And now? Is it still just a business arrangement?" "No," I said, taking Mia's hand. "No, it's real now. It's been real for a while. I love your granddaughter, Mrs. Chen. Contract or no contract, I want to spend my life with her." "And you, Mia?" grandmother asked. "I love him," Mia said simply. "He's the best thing that's ever happened to me." Grandmother was quiet for a long moment. Then she laughed, a real laugh, full of genuine amusement. "You think you're the first couple to marry for practical reasons and fall in love later?" she said. "Your grandfather and I barely knew each other when we wed. It was an arrangement between our families, but we built something real from that arrangement. We chose each other every day for 50 years. So you're not angry?" Mia asked. "Angry?" "I'm relieved. I was worried you'd married some soft city boy who couldn't stand up to you. But this one," she pointed at me, "he's got spine. He'll keep you honest." She stood up again. "The company is yours, Mia. You've more than earned it." 6 months later, I stood in the newly renovated Rivera's, looking around at the gleaming kitchen equipment, the expanded dining room, the customers lined up outside waiting for a table. The money from the contract had gone to the upgrades, along with a legitimate business loan and a small investment from Grandmother Chen herself. "Consider it a wedding present," she'd said. We'd kept the heart and soul of the place. Abuela's recipes, Maria's service, the warm family atmosphere. But now we had the equipment and space to really shine. Mia came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist. "Nervous?" she asked. "Terrified," I admitted. "What if the review is bad?" "Then we'll survive it," she said. Together. The San Francisco Chronicle's food critic was due any minute, and I'd been tied up in knots all day. But Mia was right. Whatever happened, we'd handle it together. The critic loved it for the record. Gave us 4 stars and called Abuela's mole transcendent. But that's not the important part. The important part is what happened after service that night. I locked up the restaurant and Mia was waiting outside, looking beautiful in jeans and one of my old flannel shirts. "Hey, husband," she said. "Hey, wife," I said back. And it didn't feel fake at all. It felt like the most real thing in the world. "So, I was thinking," she said as we walked toward home. Our home now, officially. She'd sold the Pacific Heights apartment and we'd bought a place together. Something that was ours, not hers or mine. "Our 1-year anniversary is coming up." "I'm aware," I said. I'd been planning for weeks, trying to figure out how to make it special. And according to our original contract, that's when we'd dissolve the marriage. My heart stopped. "Right, the contract." She stopped walking, turning to face me under a streetlight. "I was thinking maybe we should renew it." "Renew the contract?" "No, you idiot. Renew our vows. Do it right this time. Not in some courthouse with hired witnesses, but somewhere beautiful, with our families, with real promises. She took my hands. I want to marry you again, Lucas Rivera. But this time, I want to do it because I can't imagine my life without you. Not because of money or inheritance or any practical reason. Just because I love you. I pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her shampoo mixed with the smell of cumin and cilantro that always clung to my clothes after a shift. You know, when I agreed to this crazy plan, I thought I was just saving my restaurant, I said. I never expected to save myself too. Is that a yes? That's a hell yes. I kissed her, right there on the street corner, not caring who saw us. But I have one condition. What's that? I get to propose properly this time. With a ring and everything, she laughed. Deal. But make it good, chef. I have high standards now. Oh, I know. You married me, didn't you? She swatted my arm, but she was smiling. We started walking again, her hand in mine, and I thought about how far we'd come from that coffee shop conversation 8 months ago. The proposal happened 2 weeks later, though not the way I'd planned. I'd had this whole elaborate scheme worked out. Dinner at a fancy restaurant, rose petals, a violinist, the works. But plans have a way of falling apart when you least expect it. It was a Tuesday. Because of course it was. I was at Rivera's prepping for the dinner service when Maria came running into the kitchen, her face pale. Lucas, you need to come quick. There's a fire at your apartment building. My heart dropped into my stomach. Is Mia? I don't know. I just saw it on the news. I tore off my apron and ran, Maria shouting that she'd handle the service. The apartment was only 6 blocks away, but it felt like 6 miles. I could see the smoke before I got there, thick and black against the afternoon sky. The building was surrounded by fire trucks and police cars. I pushed through the crowd, desperately searching for Mia. Lucas! I spun around to see her running toward me, covered in soot but alive, thank God. Alive. I caught her in my arms, holding her so tight I probably cracked a rib. I'm okay, she said into my chest. I'm okay. It started in the apartment below ours. Everyone got out. You're sure you're okay? I'm sure. She pulled back to look at me, and her eyes were red from smoke and tears. But Lucas, the apartment, everything inside. I don't care, I said fiercely. I don't care about any of it. You're alive. That's all that matters. She started crying then, really crying, and I held her while the firefighters worked to save what they could of our building. We lost almost everything. The furniture, the clothes, the photos, all gone. But as we sat on the curb watching the smoke clear, Mia's head on my shoulder, I realized something. I was going to propose tonight, I said. She lifted her head. What? I had this whole plan. Fancy dinner, roses, the ring I've been carrying around for a week trying to find the perfect moment. I laughed, a little hysterically. The ring's in my pocket right now, actually. Only thing I managed to save because I've been too nervous to leave it at home. Lucas, but you know what? I don't need the fancy restaurant or the perfect moment. I just need you. I pulled the ring box out of my pocket, a little singed around the edges but intact, and opened it. Mia Chen, will you marry me again? For real this time. No contracts, no conditions, just you and me and whatever comes next. She was laughing and crying at the same time. We're sitting in front of our burning apartment building. No, you're covered in smoke and I'm pretty sure I lost an eyebrow. No. This is possibly the least romantic proposal in history. I know, I said again. But I love you, and I almost lost you today. And I don't want to wait another second to make this official. Yes, she said. Yes, 1,000 times yes. I slipped the ring on her finger, a simple band with a small diamond. Nothing extravagant because I'd bought it with money I'd earned myself, not the contract money, and kissed her while the firefighters applauded, and someone in the crowd yelled, "Congratulations." The wedding, the real wedding, happened 3 months later in Abuela's garden. It wasn't fancy. There was no ice sculpture or 5-tier cake or string quartet. Just our families and friends, folding chairs on the grass, and Grandmother Chen in the front row wiping tears from her eyes. Abuela had insisted on catering, even though I'd offered to hire someone. "Mijo," she'd said, "this is family. Family cooks for family." So we had carnitas and pozole and fresh tortillas, alongside the traditional Chinese dishes that Grandmother Chen's cook had prepared. It was chaos, and it was perfect. I stood at the makeshift altar, just an arbor Maria's husband had built, decorated with flowers from the corner store, and watched Mia walk down the aisle. She wore a simple white dress, nothing like the designer gown she'd worn to our courthouse wedding. Her hair was loose around her shoulders, and she was barefoot in the grass, and she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. "Dearly beloved," the officiant began, but I barely heard him. I was too busy staring at Mia, at the smile on her face, at the way the afternoon sun caught in her hair. When it came time for the vows, I pulled out the paper I'd been working on for weeks. "Mia," I said, my voice shaking slightly, "when we met in that coffee shop, I thought you were crazy. Rich girl looking for a fake husband? It sounded like something out of a bad romantic comedy. But you weren't crazy. You were desperate and alone and trying to meet impossible expectations while keeping everyone else happy." I took her hands. "I get that now. I get you now. You're the strongest person I know, but you're also kind and funny and surprisingly good at video games. You work too hard and you don't sleep enough and you have terrible taste in coffee. And I love every single part of you." Someone in the crowd, probably Maria, sniffled loudly. "I promise to always tell you the truth, even when it's hard. I promise to support your dreams, even the ones that scare you. I promise to make you breakfast on Sundays and to not judge you for working through dinner. I promise to be your partner, your friend, and your home, not because a contract says I should, but because I choose you. Every day, for the rest of my life, I choose you." Mia was crying openly now, but she was smiling too. She pulled out her own paper, though her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold it. "Lucas," she started, then stopped. "I'm sorry. I had this whole speech prepared, but looking at you now, all I can think is how grateful I am. Grateful that I walked into that coffee shop. Grateful that you said yes to my insane proposal. Grateful that you didn't run away when things got complicated." She crumpled up her paper and tossed it over her shoulder, earning a laugh from the crowd.